Where are you going? Where are you going? You walked right past the... Oh, going to the washroom. Ooh, some people just can't hold their liquor. Oh, gross. Well, ain't that fun. Oh. Well, don't forget to wash your hands. Where the fuck do you think you're going? Wash your hands. You gross. You touched a public restroom and you didn't even wash your hands? That is disgusting. Well, I'm glad I got into the VIP section. Well, hey. Welcome back to my channel. You know, today I thought I'd talk about a game series that has meant a lot to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other people out there, and that is the Sims series. If you are interested in gaming, gardening, life, the universe, science, being a dad, please subscribe. Come be a part of our Discord and help spread some positivity out there in these very, very dark times. So to get right into it, I have been a fan of The Sims for, must be like 15 years? That's unbelievable. Like, that's a large amount of time to be focused on a game series. And The Sims has been a series that has been full of steady improvements and wild rides throughout its entire lifespan. It has gone through many iterations, all the way from the very first Sims that was released, all the way up until what we have currently, which is the Sims 4. But yeah, excellent games, and I've had so many great memories. So I thought I'd give sort of my thoughts, my reviews, and talk a little bit about these games and what I got from them, and whether or not I think they're worth playing today if you were to go back and play these things. Life Simulator that was developed by Maxis and published by Electronic Arts. The whole point of the game is for the player to create a vast array of different characters who are simply referred to as the Sims, to play in an open world sandbox where you dictate the life goals and ambitions of your Sims. The Sims was first developed back in 2000 for Windows PC and is managed to spawn many main title entries into the series. However, just like with any successful series, there have been countless spin-offs ranging from Sims Castaways to the stories of Sims Medieval. The Sims has even made an even more successful transition into mobile as of 2018. I'll start off with the first Sims, and I have had very limited exposure to the original Sims. And that is because at the time we did not have a very good computer, and so The Sims was brought out first onto PC, and my uncle actually had it, and I remember dabbling when I'd visit him and my grandparents with that, and had a lot of fun. I didn't really understand it, right? I was a kid. I just liked the aspect of building and my character and sort of living this sort of life onto the computer. And that's what essentially these Sims are. All of them share a common theme, right? And that is you're sort of building a character, an avatar, to live through and do careers, have, you know, side gigs, have a family, have a home, make money, make food, do laundry, you know, everything that we do in our ordinary lives generally simplified into this wonderful experience. And it can be quite healing for some, and it can also be very enjoyable and relaxing. So I didn't really get to experience a lot of the first Sims, but where I got to experience a lot was actually the Sims 2. And I used to have a physical copy of Sims 2 for the PC, but I have, through many moves and things, seemed to have lost it. Because I was searching through all my stuff, but I couldn't find it. Anyways, from what I remember of The Sims 2, it was a marked improvement. Because I had vaguely remembered what the first Sims was like in terms of its graphics. and this was an improvement. And it, to me, felt like you could do more. So I was really, really excited. And I remember playing for hours in our dining room, which is where we had our computer, just living this life and being someone. I always usually pick the science career, going into that science career, and just loving it, and loving that there were these expansions. Now, The Sims is famous for their expansions, and in some cases, they have gotten a little bit ridiculous, especially now. But they've always sort of had these expansions, where it's like a university or school life expansion or a seasons like expansion, and it was really, really fun. Or pets. Another one's a big one is pets. I really liked it, and it was something that absorbed your time. It was something that allowed you to be sort of expressive and in many ways be the person you wanted to be, but couldn't into the real world because of some limitation that you either perceive you have or you actually have. And it was nice, or sometimes just nice to role play and make a story, which I often would do. So yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed The Sims 2. In around that time, they started to release some of these Sims on console. And I remember being at my friend's house, the one who always used to get a lot of nice games, and this was at the GameCube time, and he had the Sims on there, and I was like, "What the? You can't play Sims on there. How you doing that? How'd you do that? Did you burn it? How'd you do that?" And he said, "Oh no, it was very simple. They sold it, and it was Sims Busting Out." Because at that point, it was mainly on PC. So to see a physical release coming out on a console was mind-blowing to me. And I couldn't believe that there was this release now. And I had to go buy it right away. I was very, very shocked when I bought it. Because I bought this and I got it on sale, which is nice, for the GameCube. Because I just wanted to have it for my GameCube because I played it all the time. Much more than the PC, which my dad and my other family would use. The GameCube was exclusively in my room, so I could have as much time going to play with it. And I was expecting it to have the exact same quality if it's on the PC. Unfortunately, that's not the case. There is a severe downgrade, I would say, in this game compared to what's on the PC. And that makes sense, because if you look at the PCs even at that time, they were far more advanced than what was within the GameCube, for example. So it had to be more watered down and less texturized and so on. But it was still overall not too bad. I still had a pretty decent time in there playing this game. Would I go back and play these original three that I've mentioned? The first Sims, the second Sims, and Busting Out. I would say with the first Sims, if you want to experience where it all started, you could. It definitely is a very different graphically than what you experience today, and it's much more crude in its mechanisms. Same, I would say, with the Busting Out. I actually would skip this now that, now that we have, for example, the Sims 3 and 4. But in the time period when this came out, it was not too bad. Yes, it was a much lesser graphics and much lesser watered down, I should say, versions of what you found on the PC. Even in terms of the jobs and things you could do in the world, you couldn't just open Explore or anything. It was very basic. Yeah, I found that this one complete skip. The first one, if you wanted to experience it, you could go back and do it. I would say I would personally skip the first one and the second one, although I loved them both. The second one was really, really, really good, a big step up. I would skip them partly because of the graphics, as I said, and partly because of some wonky mechanics and things. But the base, if you really wanted to go and get the understanding and play through them and see how they developed in that for a historical standpoint, by all means, I think you should do it. But I think there are two more modern games in the Sims series that I would play. And the first one is to be honest, my favorite in the series, and that is The Sims 3. So this is just one of the expansion packs, the Supernatural. And some of you might argue that that's partly because of nostalgia, and partly because it's helped me personally. And I think I released a video by now on the channel talking about games that make me feel good. And The Sims 3 is one of those. It has been very important, very healing, helping me have control in my life. Because you control everything. Like you're like sort of the omnipotent, godlike being that's controlling these people. And it was very, very fun and rewarding and oddly very satisfying. So I really, really liked The Sims 3. And part of that idea of why I like it so much, I think, is it took everything from the previous Sims, all of them, and just improved on it. They gave us an open world, right? Where the other games you were limited to neighborhoods, or some cases just the household that you're in, or I should say a lot, because technically it's a lot that you're on, and you can build a garden and a house. But some places it was just your lot. That's all you could do. The Sims 3 went beyond that, and it gave you this open world that you now can interact with and explore and collect stuff. The collectibles are immense in this expansion of The Sims. And I absolutely loved it. It gave us everything we wanted. More sophisticated jobs, what felt like to be more interaction with the jobs. It gave us all types of things like wishes, which are also part of The Sims 2, right? To bring back like fulfillments of sort of your overarching idea of what you wanted to do with your life, right? If it was to have more kids or to get further in a certain career path or whatever, that was there. There was obviously the emotions, right? The Sims always have sort of the moodlets and various emotions and their basic needs, which I absolutely loved. This entire franchise led to this beautiful epitome here. And the expansions that came out, for the most part, were very, very well received. I liked most of them. I got almost every single one. And I loved them. And I never felt like I had to have any of the expansions. But they just added an extra layer of depth or gameplay, right? In terms of the supernatural, right? You can become all these different supernatural characters, whether it be a witch, a zombie, a fairy, a werewolf. Vampires came out with the late night expansion as well. But it was so much fun. Being a superstar, right? You could become a famous star if you wanted. I love that. Getting recognized by the paparazzi, the in-depth character system, the character models, greatly improved at this point. The customization of everything you could do was highly customizable. Patterns, colors, everything you could touch, whether it be on your character, household items, was just wonderful, the customization. It was absolutely fantastic, and it really tailored well to us, the gamers, and the players. And it also allowed for a very healthy modding community out there. It was so much fun, and I really, really enjoyed my time with it. Another great thing also about besides being open world, was the expanse of jobs that you could get, especially with all these different expansions that came out. There were so many jobs. Another one that I really, really, really liked, of course, besides your ambitions, was your character traits. Their character traits. So, for example, going to university, and there was a university pack where you would downloadable content, like extra content, and I remember buying that. And if you get your degree, you actually grow, right, as a person, so you get an extra trait slot. I love that. I love that idea. I think it's great. I love being able to have all these things integrate, and also in terms of how each expansion can link up with the previous ones. It just was wonderful. What I mean by that is if you went, for example, had gone to the university and got a degree in, science or medicine, you would start at a higher position than if you didn't. So, and that sort of brings that sort of real life choice and adding more complexity and more realness to the world. Of course, minus, the zombies and sort of the witches and that. But I really enjoy playing with that part on. I always have wanted to live that kind of fantasy world. And so I love it. I really liked the game. And I think it was, as I said, the epitome of The Sims. At that point, it was wonderful. Then, around this time, there was the announcements of the next Sims, and I thought, oh goodness, I couldn't wait. Like, I was nearly off my seat. I mean, I got this day one, right? Because I just happened to be lucky to be at Walmart the same time this was launching, and with my parents, and so we got The Sims 3 right away. But I was super stoked for The Sims 4, and I have to say, I have very, very mixed feelings, where I have a lot of good things to say about The Sims 3. Yes, there were some issues, performance, and, as you go further along in the game, and you get a lot of different events that occur, people dying, people getting birth, especially if you keep story progression on, which I always do. Your whole town gets more complicated, more complex and things, and it can sort of slow your computer down, and you get a lot of what I would call stuttering within the machine. But The Sims 4 was really hyped up to have these, like, sort of the idea of moods and feelings and how certain things in a room could change your entire focus and your perceptions, and you could become more intimate. And they said there was this very complex emotion scale, which I was super excited, because although The Sims 3 had these sort of moodlet ideas and having, like, you would feel embarrassed or things, they only had a short-term effect, and they were very basic. They were going to take that and overhaul it and make it much more sophisticated, so that if you were feeling happy, you would perform better on tasks because you're happy. Or if you were super embarrassed, you might not do well in social situations at that time. So there was an effect. And I liked that. A more in-depth, complex effect. Interactions would mean more and all that. And I was super excited for this advance. And so I remember being super excited and pre-ordered to get a copy of The Sims 4. Then I seen some reviews, and the reviewers were praising the design, praising a lot of the graphics and so on, and some of the customizable features, but there was a lot of people who were saying that they didn't like it, that it seemed to be a step back, very limited in scope, and so on. So I immediately canceled my pre-order because I didn't want to be having a game and then me get very upset, because I really liked The Sims. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited up until they released the Get to Work expansion for The Sims 4. And that's when I jumped in. And up until then, I was very happy to play The Sims 3. And playing it for myself, The Sims 4, one of the biggest things that I noticed was the worlds were small. You didn't have that open world feel. You're going back to that sort of, you're in your little neighborhood. Now you can go to these other sort of neighborhoods, if you will, on your world map, but there's a loading screen. Well, that wasn't there before in The Sims 3. You could just do it and just go, and so to me it felt like the worlds were smaller and more claustrophobic than they were before, more restricted. In terms of house customization and decorations, yeah, the house customization is fantastic. Again, similar to the Create a Sim, you can design almost anything to your heart's content that you can imagine, and I think it's fantastic. This is one of the easiest and one of the most best architecturally you've envisioned. But I found that when it came to some of that customizing, like objects or even shirts, like you could get a shirt and you could re-pattern it and redo things, it was very difficult to do that in The Sims 4. The Sims 3 was great. You could customize a lampshade, right? Customize the entire couch. Here it was very restricted into what you could customize. And that sort of, again, took away some of that sort of joy. In terms of some of the jobs, yeah, they're very different. And they, just like the other games, you know, you had promotions, you had to do certain things to get promoted. You had to be in a good mood when you go to work to get promoted, right? No one wants a mad, angry employee. So, you know, these all impact your job performance and getting promoted. But the one thing I did like that they expanded on from The Sims 3 was when you're at a job, most jobs are rabbit holes. They go in and you don't see them, and you're just assuming they're working. The Sims 3, what was nice is they'd have pop-ups that would come and say, oh, you know, so-and-so did this, should you do this or that? And you pick a decision, and that would make different outcomes and so on. But in The Sims 4, because of the Get to Work expansion, some jobs are no longer rabbit holes, like the medical career or the scientist career. You actually went in to the lab and did work. It was wonderful. I love that. Being a scientist myself, it was very, very close to home. Some cool gadgets, of course, which we don't even have today, obviously. But, you know, but I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed some of the story elements that they added, right, to those. But, again, in terms of some of these negatives, like feeling restricted, feeling I had to jump to different screens, some things not being there right away. Yes, they've patched a lot, they've added a lot of stuff back, but it kind of doesn't rub me the same way. Yes, they've added a whole bunch of stuff in. Yes, they've improved graphically, but it still felt like a step away, and that they were taking some freedoms away from the game. And so I kind of didn't bother with it. And then they started producing a whole bunch of expansions for expansions. So there was one that really bothered me, which was the Pets expansion. There was an expansion for the Pets expansion, and then that started to get under my nerves. Now, I'm not saying it's the people who are directly making The Sims, but the publisher is EA, right? And so that kind of practice of all these expansions for other expansions, and then this one pet expansion would not work if you don't have the Pets expansion, so you have to buy the previous. I don't like that. So there were some practices there that are a little bit odd. But again, I don't know. I just felt it's more restrictive, that's all. There are collectibles and so on. All the foundations of the sim is there, you know, having families and so on. I remember at one point there were toddlers. Like, I thought it mind blows that they didn't include some of these life stages. And of course they flushed them out now, and you get things, and they do more. But like, it was very interesting when it first came out. So, would I play The Sims 4? I don't, actually. I played it a little bit. I've bought many expansions for it, as I've mentioned, but I just don't feel the same about it. I felt like it was restrictive and a step back. Yes, they've advanced certain places like emotions and design and character customization, but at the cost of others. And I felt as a game that's a simulation of life should be less restrictive. Now, yes, it's gotten a lot better since they've released so many more expansions, but for some reason every time I boot it up, that feeling comes back, so that kind of taints it for me a bit. Yet I play The Sims 3 all the time, so I guess it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a more intricate sort of avatar that's like yourself with high resolution graphics, still The Sims 4 has some pretty good gameplay, don't get me wrong, and more complex social interactions with people, then I say The Sims 4. But if you're looking more for like a more life simulator, more general life simulator, where you have the freedom to do almost anything you want, then I would probably pick The Sims 3 for that. Because again, you have so much customization even with The Sims 3. Different houses, you can build to your heart's content. It might not be as convenient or architecturally pleasing as what you see in Sims 4, but The Sims 3 is still pretty good, does a pretty dang good job. and I've never had a problem with it. And it's to this day, I will go back and play The Sims 3 over The Sims 4, and that says something. That says something. Even with all the there's a new Harry Potter one, and like it's very, very interesting, but I just don't feel the same about it. As a whole, I think the Sims series is a fantastic series. I think there's a lot of great ones that have led up, like The Sims 2 and certainly The Sims 3. And then there's The Sims 4, which is sort of iffy and controversial. I do look forward to The Sims 5, and I hope they take some of these sort of negatives. It's just not me who had some of these. It was a lot of Simmers were very angry when they found out some of these sort of walkbacks in the newest Sims. And so I'm hoping when and if they make a Sims 5, that they have the open world again, where it's still, you keep the customizable stuff, keep all that great stuff from The Sims 4, but then add some of that extra stuff from The Sims 3, so that we still have that ability to feel like we're actually able to be free in a world. So yeah, so I would say that I give the whole series as an excellent series. I give it, at least an 8+ as a series. The games in them, most are fantastic. The older ones, as I said before, I would skip them in part due to graphics, as well as them being a little more simplistic in the beginning. If you really want to jump in and you haven't played The Sims and wanted to give it a shot, I would totally start off with The Sims 3 and go from there. I really like everything that you wanted. But then again, there are probably many out there who disagree and think that The Sims 4 is... That's great, and I love the idea that there are so many opinions. But the main thing is, we're all just trying to have fun. All just enjoying life and just wanting to enjoy some games, and there's nothing wrong with that. No matter which game you pick, I think you're going to have a good time. With that, guys, those are my thoughts on the Sims series. So take care, and thank you so much for coming along this journey with me and hearing my opinion. So take care, guys, and I'll speak with you guys probably very soon.